Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Happy Shochu'sday to everyone around the world. From both of us here in Japan, I am Christopher Pellegrini, recording live in Tokyo, Japan, and with me is Maya Aley in
Hello.
Kagoshima. Good morning, Maya.
Good morning. I'm awake. I think I'm awake. Do I seem awake?
You
It's
seem
early.
awake.
I don't
You're
know.
you're holding something.
I'm
Don't
holding
spill it.
tea because it has caffeine in it, and I don't really drink a lot of coffee. And it's Kagoshima tea. We're famous for tea, if you don't know. So I have some tea.
Most people probably don't know that. Can you tell us a little bit more about Kagoshima tea?
So in Japan, Shizuoka is the most probably they make the most tea by land
Volume
volume. But Kagoshima makes the most tea by sales volume. Green tea,
by
which is not
value.
really well known by value. So it costs more than the same amount Shizuoka makes. But Kyoto is also famous for tea, like uji,
Sure.
matcha, and all those kinds of things. But Kagoshima's tea, they brand it as Kagoshima cha, and the most
Uh,
famous of those brands is Chiran cha
Chirancha.
from
Yeah.
Chiran. But Chiran, it's now kind of a misnomer because it doesn't have to be made in the town of Chiran to be called Chiran cha.
Okay.
Because it was annexed politically. The
It
town
was
of
a
Chiran is now
merger.
part of the city of Minami Kyushu. It's no longer an
Oh,
independent
okay.
municipality. So if they make it within the city of Minami Kyushu, like it could be
Th-
made in the next town of like A, which you know.
yeah,
They now it used to be called Eicha, but now that's called Chirancha as well because Chiran is the bigger brand. So they've just
it's more famous.
grouped them together. Less
Well,
work, I
okay.
guess.
Good. Well,
So
yeah, Chirancha. I remember when I visited Chiran Distillery and Mr. Mori took us out to the fields
yeah,
and
he's
informed us that
he's a
he
he's a
was
tea maker. He's a
he's part
tea
of a
machine.
cooperative, yeah. And
Yeah.
he informed us that he believed at that time. I think that this is from 2020. He believed that the numbers from 2020 would show that Kagoshima had pipped Shizuoka by value on
Yeah, so that was
on
the year
tea
they first.
tea
The
tea
numbers go
shipments. So
back and forth a little bit every year. So
yeah,
maybe in the most recent numbers, Kagoshima is not number one by value, but they were once, and that's all that matters in
that's
all
all that
the
matters.
PR information.
Cling
Yeah,
on to that for a while. Nice.
yeah. It's
Well,
at the very fine print. It tells you what year it was, but it was within the past 2 or 3 years.
couple of
So
asterisks. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and let's hear what you're drinking as usual. Tell us what's in your cup. Um, Today's episode of Shochu'sday number 118 is, of course, themed Maya's Shochu Corner. And we're going to kind of wrap in a bunch of the booze news into this entire thing and just let Maya kind of riff on what's going down on the southern end of Kyushu Island. And there's a lot happening right now, of course. And I think we can get to. Mark has already left a question that's very pertinent over on YouTube, which I'll get to in a second. But for those who don't know, Maya Aley is a long-term resident of Kagoshima City, right in the heart and soul of Kagoshima Prefecture, right on the bay. There it is. There's Sakurajima at the top in the form
yeah,
of a
and
rice
onigiri.
ball, onigiri, and then some things that look like goya, and
Yeah,
and a
a
potato,
lotus root Ferris wheel. Our Ferris
a
wheel's a lotus
lotus.
root.
There you go, and then a potato, which is a tram,
The tram. Yeah,
and segodon standing right next to it,
there he is.
watching approvingly.
Yeah.
So Maya has lived in Kagoshima for a long time. She is a certified shochu expert, also something of an ambassador for Kagoshima Prefecture writ large, and does a lot of work with distilleries. Also manages a shochu bar called Roku, which is in Tenmonkan.
Yay.
And when you are able to visit Kagoshima, you should absolutely go there. And
Yay.
Maya will make you a fantastic oyuwari But anyways, I'm gonna put a
Or
couple of
not if you
questions.
don't like the oyuwari. Don't
No,
pressure
you
the
have.
people into drinking the oyuwari, Christopher.
No, everybody drinks the oyuwari. You should, if you don't drink the oyuwari yet, it just means you're early in the journey. You will get there.
So so don't you know
I'm an
let them
oyu.
take their time.
Yeah, I will encourage I will clap and applaud and push and prod at every step of the journey. Get to the oyuwari eventually, folks. But we're gonna let her riff a little bit on what's going down in Kagoshima. So what's front of mind, Maya? What's.
Is this the booze news corner? I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna seg these. There's segments today.
Yeah, well, the main thing here is the Maya's
Oh, it's
Kagoshima
my corner.
corner.
Ah,
It's your
you didn't
corner.
alliteration it. It's the
I was
cortical
thinking
corner.
about it. Yeah, and then I was extra K's are not always a great thing. So anyway, Maya,
Okay.
what's going down?
So I guess the biggest, if we want to go straight into Mark's question, then
Sure, sure. Okay,
the
let me throw that up here then. Sweet
sweet
potato
potato
disease.
disease affecting production. Simple answer, yes.
Yep.
Yes. So it's now the end of August, past Obon. Obon is the family kind of. It's like the Japanese Halloween, Day of the Dead, I suppose. Um, when the ancestors come back to visit, like it's like Coco movie, um, and in Japanese, and then traditionally a lot of the distilleries will start production after Obon, like after their summer break. So a lot of the distilleries have started production last week, coming into this week, and a lot of them this year started earlier than Obon. They started in early August. I think the earliest I saw was even end of July. I saw one or two posting.
Oh, really?
Like at least they were getting the cleaning in, and they were
The,
getting their a little bit head start, even just by like 1 or 2 weeks. They were starting a little bit earlier. And the reason for this is, as Mark has asked about this sweet potato disease, and I think you shared a picture a week or two back when you were talking with Stephen about like this rot. It's called
yeah.
motokusarebyo, and it's basically it starts with the roots and the seed. It's in the ground and they don't know if it's there until they dig it up, and it
Yeah.
affects a lot of the sweet potatoes. It affects the different varieties slightly differently. So some are a little bit more resistant to this rot than others. And they've discovered this is, I think, now the third or fourth year that they've been dealing with this. And it's getting progressively worse. But this year there wasn't a lot of rain and it was a very short rainy season. So
Yeah, it
some
was
people had
short,
said
wasn't it?
maybe it won't be as bad because the rainy season was shorter and there was a little bit less rain.
Okay.
But they start production early because the longer the potatoes are in the ground, the more chances the rot has to take hold. So if they dig the potatoes up earlier, they'll be slightly smaller. They won't be as mature. There won't be as many of them, but they'll have a larger
Tonnage.
possibility. Yeah. The tonnage is smaller, but the probability that they won't be affected will be greater.
Yeah, so the
So
amount that they have to throw away is reduced
yes,
potentially.
is reduced. But so they have to start production in the middle of summer still, and shochu, fermentation is a hot business. So, and they're still dealing with COVID, so they have to they have like little acrylic boards in between each of the the obachans, the old ladies who cut the
Wow.
potato buds. Like I saw a couple of just post pictures where they have each is in their little acrylic board stall.
Huh.
Just to make sure they don't get if someone on the production floor gets sick, like it'll spread and they won't be able to have to stop production, basically.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah.
the
So they're probably
distillery
not allowed to
staff,
talk. They're probably trying to keep them from talking too much too, correct?
yeah, don't really
Potentially.
talk to each other. Don't go out drinking, obviously. Like reduce your risk of getting sick as much as possible.
It's going to
So it's
screw
not
up the entire production.
yeah, especially a lot of the smaller places if they're family run. They've got the distiller, the shacho, a couple local old ladies who come in. You know,
Right.
a couple maybe two full-time staff, three full-time staff, a handful. Like maybe 10 people in the whole production. If one
Hmm.
or two of those people get sick, you're down 20-30% of your workforce. So,
Ugh. Yeah.
and it's
So
never going to be
Maya,
just one
which
person who gets sick.
no, definitely not. And what Maya, which varieties of sweet potato are being hammered by this blight?
Ah, everyone's favorite Kogane Sengan
Right.
is taking it pretty hard. And Kogane Sengan is the big white one that uses was what I would say 90% of most shochu
I would
production
say
is
at
a
least it's
yeah.
yeah, far and away the
Um,
lion's share.
yeah, and I've heard things for the Tanegashima production area was quite bad last year. So the Anno Imo, the kind of the very, they're good baked, they're like good as roasted potatoes, those ones that normal people eat.
Yeah.
But I've heard that was it the Joy White kind of ones are a little bit, the Shiro Yutaka, those ones are a little bit more resistant.
Okay.
So there was some research, and the government is obviously trying to engineer new spuds that are more resistant that can be planted. And the K company up in Miyazaki, the big K,
Yeah, they have one
Kirishima
in
Shizo,
the off. Yeah.
yeah, Kirishima, because they're lending a lot of efforts and into researching producing a new variety that is more resistant by combining they you get, so you can produce a new potato that is resistant to rot, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good for shochu. So they have to
Right.
combine these two things. It has to be good for shochu and resistant to this rot. So
Yeah, it's
they
got to
do
taste good,
have,
high starch content, and then somehow
yeah,
be
there's a lot
resistant
of things
to
to
this blight.
consider. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have had successfully trialed a new, I think it's called Yumemichi, Yumemichi, something like that. It's like the road to dreams or something like that. It's translated something
Yeah,
funny like
right?
that. Yeah, and but there aren't enough seedlings to go around because there aren't enough people making it yet. This
Right.
new variety. So I did talk to a distillery that they were like, "Oh yeah, we ordered a bunch so we could start trialing them ourselves, but we only got like a third of our order or a quarter of the order just because there isn't enough of it to go around to all the distillers who want to try um,
Right.
producing with it. So maybe in
We're
another
still a
year or
few,
two.
yeah, another couple years
Yeah.
at least.
So
Oh, lovely,
that
lovely.
that
Well,
is the too long didn't read.
that's,
Yes, Mark.
yes, it's absolutely affecting production, and a little bit of evidence of that. I'll share something from Komasa that I tried to share before. Hopefully, it doesn't cut your audio or your ability to hear me. But here is Komasa's Instagram account, and you can see.
I can
Well,
still hear you.
Maya, what's Oh, good. Well, I won't switch it to the. I won't switch my tab view so that I don't mess with your
Yeah.
audio. But can you explain what's going on here? This was from August 2nd.
Okay, so this is a picture from Komasa Jozo in Hiyoki. They have two distilleries. If you know Kanosuke whiskey, they also make Kanosuke whiskey. And the Shacho here on the left in the beige shirt is the Shacho the whiskey. But all their staff together, all the distilleries before they start production, they'll have a Shinto priest. I guess is the right
Hmm.
word. It's Shinto. It's a priest, and it's
I think
basically
so.
like a purification ceremony and praying for a good season,
Hmm.
basically. So a lot of the distilleries once before they start production for the year, I think they just started. Komasa started, I think, at Hiyoki just maybe a week or they'll do the ceremony first. There's a ritual, and then
Hmm.
like a week later they'll start production, and
Okay.
they have them come in and they bless them and maybe bless the facility. It's always done at the distillery on the
Hmm.
production floor. Um, so they come out. They I guess it's a business trip for the priest to come in, and
Right.
a lot of the distillers will post pictures like, well, we had our ritual today, so and then so they're starting production soon. So kind of, I don't understand all the details of Shinto shrine, but it's very common. It's like if you buy a new car here in Japan, especially in Kagoshima, you take your car, you drive it up to the shrine, and the priest will bless your car on the
Mm.
grounds of the shrine. So,
Right.
you know, if you get a new baby, the priest will bless the baby. If you get a new car, if you buy a new house, or if you're just building a house, you have the priest come in. If you're doing construction, you have a blessing. So you just
And there
cross all the
there are
fingers
different
and dot all the T's, and yeah.
yeah, or whatever. Yeah, there's and the different shrines have different things, or different types of good fortune that they're known for, and so people will visit
Yes.
them according to whatever their
Yes, yes,
whatever
that's
type
true.
of good luck they're after, whether it's doing well on a test, finding a partner in marriage, a healthy
Business.
pregnancy, business success, yeah, money, financially related, or yeah, as you said, safety on the road,
Yeah.
so blessing your car. Yeah, so this is it's a clear indication. So when you see on Instagram in the future, those when you see the priests come out, the Shinto priests come out, you know that the season's about to begin. And that's not just the sweet potato shochu makers; it's
All of them.
nationwide.
All of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's just interesting that we're
Yep.
already at some distilleries pretty well into the first month of the
Yes.
season, whereas normally under normal circumstances we would just be getting going. Really,
Hmm. So
the
it's usually
facility
like the
cleaning would have just
early,
wrapped up.
yeah, the early birds start at the beginning of August, but now a lot of them, as far as I could tell, and I someone asked in the comments if Roku's bar specialty. Oh, Mark, it was Mark. Roku bar specialty. It's shochu. It's a shochu bar
Yep,
because it's Kagoshima. I mean, we have wine
and
and whiskey and other things, but it's shochu. Kagoshima Shochu. We don't have
yep,
Miyazaki Shochu. We don't have Oita Shochu. We don't have Kumamoto. We only have Kagoshima Shochu.
yep. So that's sweet
And
potato and kokuto.
yes, about 350 different brands. So I do get a lot of distillery staff, or not the staff, more so the management. The top, the guys who can cut an expense receipt for the expense reports. They come in a lot for, to, catch up on the news and see, and also to catch up on what the competition is making.
Sure.
If you're staying in your local, Kagoshima is very regional in terms of its shochu production. If you live out in Ibuski, which is a small town in the south known for its hot spend, then you'll drink the shochu that's made in Ibuski,
Mm-hmm.
more or less. So if you have to come out into the city if you want to try all the other
Try
stuff
all
from
of it
around the
together.
prefecture.
Yeah, good
So
variety.
yeah, so if the distilleries are like, oh, what's going on with those people over there? What are they making recently? We're interested in them, so they'll come out and catch up on stuff.
Chris just
So
asked a question, which I think is interesting about sourcing of materials related to the blight.
mm,
Of course, would it not be wise to source sweet potatoes from other parts of the world? And it is done occasionally. I think frozen sweet potatoes are carted in from other parts, not too far away, obviously, but maybe from China or other parts of this half of the world.
mm.
Of course, for sweet potato makers in Kagoshima, that's not possible in most cases, right?
Yes, we have the Satsuma Shochu GI, the geographic indication, and that one of the rules of that is that the potatoes have to be from Kagoshima Prefecture.
Hmm.
So if they want to preserve the usage of the Satsuma Shochu GI and leave that mark on the label, then they have to use Satsuma Shochu sweet potato, Satsuma imo from Satsuma.
Hmm.
In Japanese, by the way, sweet potato, the word for sweet potato is Satsuma imo. Imo is the generic spud, like a jagaimo is a
Hmm.
regular brown potato. And
Hmm.
Satsuma imo is a sweet potato, and Satsuma is the feudal term region for Kagoshima. So Kagoshima is so famous for sweet potatoes, that's what the rest of the country calls them. They're
Yep.
they're the ones from here,
Yeah.
basically.
Yep. A
So
lot of them produced down there. If this
yes,
stupid blight will get out of the way, then.
even
Um,
Kirishima Shuzo
mhm.
in Miyazaki gets their potatoes from Kagoshima.
Yeah. There's a bunch of Miyazaki makers who source
Yeah,
at least some of their sweet potatoes from south of the border. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's very, very
So
common.
as a to cover the loss of the from the rot, some of them I think I did hear were switching to Miyazaki or other places, but then you have to reprint all your labels because you can't use the
Yeah.
GI anymore, and there's a cost associated with that. So it's where you want to use you, and also Japanese people have a strange feeling about like Chinese potatoes or like non-domestically produced potatoes. Like you have to specify it on the label if it's not, I think, like if it's domestically produced or not. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
some kind of fiddly rule about that.
There might be.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so people have a strange feeling about, oh, it's not. Oh, why'd you do that and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You would likely have some explaining to do.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing. You texted me about this earlier, and this is just kind of fun. I think people will. I don't. While there's been a lot of press attributed to the fact that hey, maybe Japan is opening up. I don't think it really is yet. I think it's more just like making it easier for Japanese residents to return to Japan without too many complications. But there is movement in the world of flying, and this is an interesting little thing that you brought to my attention yesterday. I'm going to throw it up here. Boom. Share. Okay, so what's going on here?
Well, but before I get to that, Japan has announced that they're considering getting rid of the 72-hour PCR test to get into the country, maybe sometime in September, question mark. But that was in the news yesterday as well.
Right.
So this article is from our local news, and it's the lovely ladies of Japan Airlines, JAL, and ANA, All Nippon Airways, Japan's two biggest carriers. Their first official code share. Like they're on different networks. One is One World, and one is SkyTeam or Star Alliance or whatever. What's ANA? The other one.
I should know this.
Star.
I think it's
It starts with an S.
Star Alliance, maybe.
Star Alliance. And so, like, they are not friends in general. Like,
no.
They should be rivals. But they have announced their first official code share to the Amami, or the islands of Kagoshima. So up until now, Japan Airlines had a total monopoly on all flights from Kagoshima Airport to all the islands so Tanegashima, Yakushima, which is famous for hiking, World Natural Heritage, and the islands of Amami were only flown by Japan Air Commuter, which is a branch company of Japan Airlines. And they announced that for some reason, starting in October, they'll be doing a code share with ANA. So you can get ANA miles. You can book through the ANA website to fly on JAL to get to the islands of Kagoshima.
That is so big. Yeah, I'm excited.
You're an ANA. You're a.
I am diehard ANA. JAL's website is so 1994 still. And
probably made on Windows 95 or something, yeah.
Probably. It is unbelievable. It is. I think I mentioned to you yesterday. It has actually prevented me from flying to those islands on more than one occasion just because I got so frustrated and gave up. So the fact that I'll be able to book through ANA's website, which is very easy to navigate, and then also collect points the way I want to collect them is fantastic. I don't know if you can see right now, but I've scrolled down.
Yes,
can you see
very
that?
Small though. I see.
Is it really small? Okay.
Can you like zoom in on your browser?
Well, I'm scared of doing. Can you click on any of the other views? Maybe you can't, but I can read through it. It says it's 14 different routes and a total of 44 different flights per day. And coming out of Kagoshima Airport, we've got, what is this? Tanegashima, Yakushima, Amami Oshima, Tokunoshima, Kikaijima, Okinoerabu Jima, and then Yoron. Yep. And then basically a few of the same ones coming out of Amami Oshima, except with the addition of a flight to Naha. Yeah,
the puddle jumps.
And then outside of that, there are a few other ones inter-island hopping, including a Fukuoka to Yakushima flight, which I did not actually know existed, but it makes sense that it does. It's kind of funny, and clearly now I'm just guessing, but my take on this is that JAL was suffering pretty hardcore. They would have to have been suffering pretty hard for them to say to their chief rival, and be like, here, let's code share these. You can have some of the money as long as you put some butts in seats for us.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
amazing. Small planes, those some of those islands. Like I had flown on some of them, and they have a propeller,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
that is not a jet engine. That is a propeller.
Some of the most exciting landings of my life have been flying on Japan Air commuter flights down to those
Yeah.
smaller islands. Like landing in Yakushima, for example, is always exciting because you come in at like this big swooping angle. Sometimes is holy lord. If we get this wrong, we're definitely we're going for a swim.
On the mountain.
Yeah. So, but I'm happy about this. I think I'm not a huge JAL fan because they took government bailout money, and so I'm kind of like
Neither here nor there.
yeah, but so I'm stoked that I'm gonna be able to continue to fly Anna down to those islands. So, yay!
Well,
This is a win.
you're going to be flying gel. You're going to be flying. The plane is going to be
I
gel.
am, and there's
And
nothing
the crew is
wrong
gonna be
with
JAL.
JALs. I have no problem with JAL crews or JAL planes or JAL service necessarily, although
There's no
Anna is
website.
better. But but that website, man, it's just from prehistoric era. So that's fun. Anything else that's going on, Maya?
So because production has started, that means the Shinshu will be coming soon. Yay!
Shinshu season
The
is
Shinshu.
upon us. There we go. This
Should
is
be-
exciting. This is fun.
In a couple weeks.
Cool.
I think.
Something to look forward to. And something that we'll be able to keep tabs on, see what new stuff is coming out. The last few years have been quite interesting.
Lots of Shinshu. People not making
lots of new stuff coming out.
Yeah. So the problem with this is keeping them all in stock at the bar and be like, I don't have room to put you on my shelf. Like I do not have room for all of these new products on my shelf.
Craft beer in the States in a small country store. Well,
Yeah.
okay, let's because we're pushing up. Wow, that was a long. We got a lot of content in there. That's good. Newly opened. If you don't mind me moving on, if there's nothing else, I know that you don't do a whole bunch of imbibing at home, but I also know that you do have a lot of bottles. Yeah.
I picked a bottle. I just picked a bottle on the shelf. That was
Okay.
Me first or you first?
Go for it.
Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun,
look at you pulling out the big guns.
Nokudaime yuri dun dun dun. The reason it is open. The bottle is open. It's not newly open. It's
Not recently open.
It's not a recently open, but it is open, which is the most I can say for any of the bottles on my shelf because I don't really drink at home. I was at Yamakataya, our department store, recently, and they were having a furusato, like a hometown exhibit of all local Kagoshima crafts from all around the prefecture, and Nokudaime Yuri was exhibiting a booth. So I stopped by to say hello to whoever was at the booth and
Was Shiota
Illumination.
Shochu wasn't there? It was somebody else?
It wasn't. It was one of their sales guys who I'd never met. But it was because Nokudaime Yuri. You and Steven have talked about it a lot, and it's very pungent. It's funky. What is your word? What is your word?
Yeah, I like
kick
funky.
to it.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's not that easy to buy around here.
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, I know a couple places that sell it, but the fact that they were at the biggest department store, and when I saw their Instagram post from the first day, and they had quite a lot of bottles, and I went on the second to last day, and they were down to a few, just the major, the regular, and the 35. They were out of the rice, they were out of some of the other stuff. So
okay.
I think that's good that people were able to buy it a little bit closer to home and get out. So it's good.
Yeah.
That, they appear at those kinds of pop-up booths at different kinds of exhibits.
They pick their spots, I guess.
Fairs. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like a little bit like Yamato Zakura in that sense.
Yeah,
you never
little
know where
niche.
you're gonna run into them. Yeah.
But when you do,
Very
you want to buy
cool.
it because you're like, oh yes.
I'm not gonna run into this again. Yeah, better grab one or two or five.
Yes.
Mine is, and I apologize, not a Kagoshima Shochu. This is from Oita, Ajimu Gura, and it's not actually a recently opened either, but it's a bottle kill from yesterday. And this one is, as I said, it's an Oita 100% barley shochu, and it's interesting because they they polish the barley way down further than what is customary for barley shochu. A lot of the polishing ratios is down to about, you get 70-80% is quite common. This particular brand, they polish the barley down to 50%, which according to the distillery is about as far as you can go with barley before it
Still
kind of
have a barley left.
before you lose everything to work with. And then they do a really low temperature fermentation, like much along the lines of sake production, ginjo sake production. So if we're talking Fahrenheit, then we're talking less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a pretty chilly environment for the yeast to be operating in. In that situation, you get a much slower fermentation in most cases. You also get a lot more estery yeast activity, and you get a lot of those fruitier and more floral esters that are often appreciated in ginjo style sake. Now, obviously, this is not made from rice, so we're dealing with a very different raw material. But this is quite light and quite a little bit tropical. It's got some really interesting fruit notes to it, even though it is a barley shochu, and it's quite nice on the rocks. Of course, I drank it with hot water, even though I was told not to. And yep, this one's 25% ABV, and it's now done. So
who was it?
Until we meet again.
Chris, who asked Chris on YouTube, who asked about mugi and emo abroad. But a very not so well known fact is that Kagoshima actually produces a lot of mugi.
They do, yeah.
And they sell it up the island to the places that use mugi shochu. A lot of them. So
there's some very good mugi made in Kagoshima. I mean, Denen makes some great expressions.
Yeah. Mugi Hokka, your favorite.
Mugi Hokka from Tensei, which is available in the States, is a phenomenal example.
But there are some distillers. Emo production is in the fall, winter. So in the spring, summer, when they're not using the emos, they've got the distillery is open. So sometimes they make mugi and sell it.
Yeah, and occasionally
it'll end up in your Oita shochu bottle.
Yeah, sometimes. Right. Oh, you're talking about uri. I see.
Yeah,
okay, you're talking about bulk purchasing of distillate. Oh, yeah. That's a big thing. Absolutely.
Big business.
Big business. You're right. So, it's one thing that maybe is a discussion for another day, or maybe this is a podcast topic in the future, but it's
guy. We're already 30 minutes into
type
your
of
show,
stuff.
So.
Yep. All right. Yeah,
we are
nearing the end. It is a very fun topic, and if you look at the rankings for the top 50 shochu producers and sellers in Japan every year, you'll see some names in there that's like, what is that? Well, that's a mass distillation place that basically
I never
makes
see that
it.
place in the show.
Yep, and they sell it to other places that bottle it, basically. So, anyways, that's a very interesting topic that is not often discussed. And we might get to that in the future. At any rate, this has been, we're done with our 30 minutes. And thank you very much to Maya and your bottle of Yuri. And thank you to everyone out there who tuned in for another episode of Shochu'sday. It is every Wednesday morning in Japan at 10 a.m. And regardless of what time savings is happening in other parts of the world, it's always 10 a.m. in Japan. So that's how you might want to set it in your calendar if you choose to do so. Just set it to 10 a.m. in Tokyo and Osaka, and then it'll adjust appropriately in Google Calendars. But we'll be back next week, I believe. I won't be back. I'll be on a flight to the United States at that time. But more shochu, awamori, and other Japanese spirits content coming your way very shortly. Until the next time when we can all meet again, to all of you all around the world out there in Shochu'sday land, from both of us here in Japan, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.